Another year, another GMTK Game Jam complete. The theme this year was roles reversed, meaning some aspect of the game had to be reversed from what you'd expect. This was the first game jam in a while that I'd done solo, so I was quite excited to get straight into it. After seeing the theme, I got straight to work brainstorming ideas for a possible game I could make. This didn't last too long, as about 18 minutes in I got an idea that I just couldn't pass up. 18 minutes might sound like a fair bit of time, especially if you've never done a game jam before, but for context, this is my brainstorming for the last game jam, and this is my brainstorming for this one. As you can see, there's a big difference. So, you might be wondering what this game idea is that I just had to do. Well, I present to you Backstabbing Queen, later rebranded to Backstabbing King. I'll let the description on the itch page take it from here. The king is in love with the enemy queen, but neither side's army will allow it. Thus, the king creates a plan to assassinate his own army during the night so that him and the queen can be the last ones on the board together. So yeah, that was the premise. From a gameplay perspective, this means that you have to kill every troop except the king and enemy queen while killing your own troops and building up combos at night. I felt that this idea had a lot of potential to rank highly in the jam, so at this point I decided to run with it and make a super polished game that I hoped people would like. My goal was to hopefully make up for some of the embarrassing rankings that I'd got on previous game jams. At the time, my best game jam ranking was my very first game jam game, which only made it into the top 20%. My goal for this game jam was to get into the top 10%. Once I had my idea, I started drawing some chess pieces and hopped straight into Unity. I started by making a simple chessboard where I could drag pieces around and have them snap to the grid. Next, I added indicators for where the player could move and made it so trying to move to any other position would put the piece back where it started. Each piece stored an array of all the possible moves it could do relative to its position. For example, the rook stored positions like this, and the queen like this. The problem with this was that I wasn't really sure how to have moves be blocked by other pieces using this system. Also, the pawn's moveset is very reliant on its position in the board. I solved this by creating a getMoves function for the piece that can have whatever logic I need in it. And this is the point where I realized that if I'm making a chess game, I need a chess AI, so I was stuck with two bad options. Either I try to get something like Stockfish working with my code, or I write my own chess AI. I decided that to start I'd write my own chess AI that just plays random moves while prioritizing killing enemy troops. It's not much, but I wanted to see how close it would get me to a fair fight. Plus, I figured most people playing the game, me included, wouldn't be chess experts, so maybe I could get away with it. After writing this super basic chess AI, I just had one more major feature to implement: nighttime. To start, I made a counter that would count down your turns until night. Next, I made this little time swap animation, which took me way too long to make. Finally, I enabled killing your own troops and disabled killing enemy troops at night. At this point, the game was super close to being playable. It just needed one more thing: a scoring system. Originally, I was going to make each kill be worth 3 points, but then I remembered, big numbers equals satisfying, so I decided to make each kill worth 1,000 points. After that, I sat down for my first real playtest. I was surprised to find that my basic chess AI felt a bit too hard. I think due to a combination of my lack of chess skill, killing my own pieces at night, and the fact that the AI played super aggressively, I was struggling to win. And, to top it all off, whenever the AI happened to make a good move, it instantly made it feel a lot smarter than it actually was. But at the end of the day, I thought it was a bit too difficult, so I changed the AI so it only did a guaranteed killing move 20% of the time, or if it was able to kill the king. The rest of the time, the killing moves got mixed in with the ordinary moves. Next up, I decided the game needed some juice, so I added some sound effects, blood splatters, and screen shake when killing a piece. I also added a combo system at night to incentivize killing your own troops. And that was the end of day one. I made a backup of the game, went to bed, and got ready to wake up early the next day. The next day, I woke up early and got started on the game. Because I had finished all the gameplay yesterday, day 2 is going to be completely dedicated to polishing up the game and making it extra satisfying. First thing I did was change how the AI moves the queen, because I had noticed while playtesting that once the queen escaped the back line, it was bound to threaten a decent amount of your troops, and this really limited how you played. So to solve this, I made the queen only move on even number days. This isn't mentioned to the player anywhere, but I figured that when the queen didn't move for a few turns, the players would return to a more aggressive playstyle without necessarily knowing the inner workings of the AI. Next up on my list was adding the win-loss screen, because at the moment it was just printing whether you won or lost to the console. So I made some art for that in Paint.net and threw together a little animation of it sliding down from the top of the screen. Finally, I added a main menu and created this opening cutscene to help explain the game and the player's motive. Now it was time to do my first external playtests. So yeah, I ended up with only one playtester on this game. Although he did manage to give me some pretty good feedback considering the closest thing he's played to a video game in the past 5 years is Wordle. So I implemented some of his feedback, which mostly included making sure it was clear what the player was supposed to do, which I surprisingly often forget to do in my games. But luckily, this time it was a relatively easy fix, as most people already know the controls of chess, so I just added an objective menu which would pop up at the start of every game telling you what the goal of the game was. Lastly, before I went to bed, I made a web build of the game and submitted it to itch, because the jam ended pretty early in the morning for me and I wasn't sure if I could wake up on time. So, 10 hours before the deadline, I submitted Backstabbing King to the GMTK Game Jam. The next day, I woke up an hour and a half before the deadline. The game was already basically done, so after adding a few finishing touches, I started to work on the itch page. This proved to be a nice break, as the page would still be editable after the submission period ended, so there's no looming deadline over my head. Around this time, I remembered a video by the YouTuber Rocky Mullet where he mentioned being penalized for not having enough votes, so I took a look at how many votes the previous GMTK winners had. The bare minimum amount seemed to be about 50 votes, and naturally I find my games tend to get about 15 to 25 votes, so I decided that I was going to have to go all in trying to get people to vote on my game. I played and commented on a bunch of people's games in the hopes that they would click on my game. I posted my game in the GMTK Discord. I participated in all 3 of the rating swaps hosted by the Post Jam Productions Discord. I sent my game to a few streamers and implemented any of their feedback that I could fix by changing the game description, and overall, this worked pretty well. I was able to hit my goal of 50 ratings by the 4th or 5th rating day. A few days after the voting had ended, GMTK released their top 20 games. Now, I obviously didn't think that I'd get into the top 20, never mind the top 100, but it was still in the back of my head. So, I sat down and pressed play. And I was not in the top 20. Terrified, I opened up my games page to see where I ranked, and I had actually easily surpassed my goal of top 10%. I opened the page to find that I was just within the top 200, and I'd even slipped into the top 100 in creativity, which I'm really proud of. Lastly, I'd like to say that even though game jams aren't all about winning or placing highly, I feel like I've learned a lot more from this game jam alone than I have from any other game jams combined. And for anyone watching this, if you've already got a few game jams under your belt, I'd highly recommend trying your best to win a game jam. Anyways, that's all for this video. Have a good day.